And let's bring in criminal defense attorney and former Manhattan prosecutor Jeremy Saland for more. Jeremy, I keep thinking about what you told me last week about the scope and kind of like lasering in here. Sex trafficking, let's just level set. That is defined as the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, obtaining, patronizing, or soliciting of a person for the purpose of commercial sex act. What is the testimony from the escort that we heard today do to the prosecution's case? Because this guy is saying that, at least according to his accounts, Cassie was a willing participant in the freak-offs, was oftentimes even the one to pay him, right?
Yeah, so you need to establish that people were trafficked and brought from by force, coercion, as you just mentioned before, across state lines here, and they were paid money in these commercial sexual acts, which is really just a glorified way of saying prostitution. But to the point you raised moments ago was Cassie really doing this because she had to? Was she compelled? Was she doing this of her free will? And the gentleman Hayes, or they call the Punisher, he made it clear that it wasn't as if she was being abused or being forced. Certainly Puff Daddy or Sean Combs was the one who was a puppeteer, if you will, but was it by force? And another thing came up as well, where he said to prosecutors previously, allegedly, that, he was developing feelings from her. And then today he said he didn't. They were misconstrued. So was there an angle of his here in this as well for cross-examination? But they have not really yet to fully establish the elements of this crime.
Interesting. And meanwhile, it's all about credibility, right? He's got a book out, colorful character on the stand.
Absolutely.
Cassie was she's about 8.5 months pregnant. Like, how do you think the jury's going to see all of this?
Well, the jury looks at this woman certainly as someone who is sympathetic. And I think when you can take that over, and that's a reason I think the defense didn't cross-examine the mom today, Regina, who's Cassie's mom, is because there's really no win to beat her up and make her upset. And you have to sort of acknowledge and expect that a mom is going to tell a story. A mom is going to lie for her daughter. A mom is going to protect her daughter. A mom is going to do anything for their child. But then the question becomes, was that $20,000 due to blackmail? Where's the evidence of it? Yes, there's injuries to, we've seen pictures of injuries to Cassie, but is that because Sean Combs is an animal, or because that was part of the force, to the point you made before, to establish these crimes? That foundation is growing, but it's still not there.
That's fascinating. It really speaks to the strategy of not going into cross-examination of her mom. A lot of us were wondering why that was today. But that testimony from Cassie's mom, like that email of Combs allegedly threatening to release sex tapes if Cassie, of just what was going on, and then that weird reverse, like, you guys better pay me $20,000 thing. How does that fold into all of this?
Again, it makes Cassie empathetic and sympathetic. It makes you question, what's this about? Is it really blackmail? Is that why? Or is this someone who says, you know what, I may have controlled your career and your apartment and paid for your way, but you're no longer my girlfriend anymore. I want my money back. Being a jerk does not mean that you are involved in a systematic scheme, a criminal enterprise that is alleged here, and in conspiracy with others to do so. So they're not there yet, and the defense, I think, is doing a good job, but it's more a burden of the prosecution to first establish these crimes.
And then there's the Kid Cudi question. I mean, tomorrow we could see him taking the stand, and like there's a car bombing that may be discussed here. What do you think we're going to see there?
Yeah, that's pretty powerful, compelling evidence as well. If you're taking that level of action to go to that force and that coercion, that you're threatening not people's lives, you're not just beating them, but you're blowing up their cars and potentially killing them, that is strong evidence. But it's one thing to do that. The prosecution still has to connect those dots and say, this was a part of this overall scheme that Diddy was perpetrating, and not just act on an island of some other example of violence by a bad man.
Jeremy Saland, your insight on this is always so spot on. Really appreciate you taking the time today. Thank you.
My pleasure.